Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we love talking about leadership. And that's why we're honored to be joined by Nick Davies. He's a master coach with ProAdvisorCoach. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that great introduction there. Excited to be here, Jeremy.
Well, you have a cool story. Obviously, everyone can hear just from your accent alone, but let's start with a little bit of your personal background tied to England and growing up on, 3 different continents and how you got into this world of coaching. And so give us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, I grew up just outside of London, and right out of high school, I worked in banking, just fell straight into that. I ended up working in banking for big banks all over the world for about 20 years and had my own team in the first couple of years and was really successful in what I did, seemed to gravitate to doing it, and people got given my own team. And my earliest memory of connectivity, people, leadership, and really going to the next level of what was available came working in that first team. And at the time, of course, I couldn't see it. It's only now if I look back, but I had a small team of people that was in my early 20s and they were all in their 30s. And I just noticed how some of them could go through, get the task done, not too difficult of a task, but looking after trading desks and just be able to do it, flowing through, get the result. And other people would crash and bang their way through the day, get the result in the end, but their experience through it was completely different. Now, these people were roughly about the same age, same sort of experience, same sort of education. It's like, what's the difference? What is people's motive? Why do some people gravitate towards enabling themselves to move through? What is the difference in the mindset of that? Why do people do what they do? And the theme of people really stuck with me all through that part of my career. Spending a long time in England, about 10 years doing that, and then having teams in different parts of England, teams in India, spending time over there and dealing with the construct of remote leading those people. Before that was even a thing like it is now, but back in the early 2000s. And then doing a whole bunch of traveling and then living and working in the Philippines for a few years. And then that was a whole different experience. And then moving to the States where I really wanted to be here, and living in Florida, working there, and then moving to New York, working on Wall Street, and just all those different type of experiences that people think was so important. And I got to a point, I was thinking, what do I really love? Who do I want to be when I grow up? And having one of those existential moments and been on that journey going, okay, I love working with people. What's the thing that I like in my roles that's always been consistent is coaching, mentoring people that were in my team, outside my team. And I've been doing it without even realizing what it was. And I thought, what if I could do this every day with people that really care about what they're doing? Not just people that are here because I think it's a good idea, but people that have businesses, that have the risk, that have the tire, that have the depth. What if I could apply these principles and work with people every day? And that's what started me in my journey. And I thought, I'm going to go straight to the top. And at the time, that was Tony Robbins. And I went through a crazy journey with Tony Robbins. And I was a Tony Robbins coach for a long time. And I've coached hundreds of his clients, thousands of hours. And then moved to ProAdvisorCoach when I moved down to Charlotte here. And that's really my whirlwind of that journey, Jeremy.
Well, and I like that central thread, just like you're talking about, of people. It's how do I enable, equip, empower people for success? And that becomes that common thread and carrying forward. And so go ahead and dive in. When you talk about ProAdvisorCoach, give us some background on ProAdvisorCoach.
ProAdvisorCoach has been around for a couple of decades. The founder, CEO, Rich Campy, has been coaching, still coaches for a long. Has been coached for a long time. Doesn't really work with individuals one-on-one anymore. Just really work on the team overall. But the concept, of course, is that we want to help people, and the balance. What really stands out, again, same theme, people. What really stands out, ProAdvisorCoach, is a balance between coaching, and consulting, and advising. And there's loads of great coaches out there, and there's less great coaches that have great businesses, and they're the right balance of what coaching is overall. And everyone really has a different background at ProAdvisorCoach, but the same focus on helping people. And therefore, everyone has a different ideal client, which means overall we can help lots of people with lots of businesses. But it's understanding, look, principally, I believe that I can help anyone, anywhere, anytime, on anything. Not because I'm so great, just because there's only so many principles to go around, right? And it's just applying those principles to that business and that individual. So what is it you want specifically? And we'll tie that together, and we can't help getting the result. And then, what I really love so much about what I do, Jeremy, is that every day as I go through work with my clients, it's so many of those principles just over and over overlay so much that just in that individual day, I'll end up working on the same principles with different people. And I'll be able to say, hey, client, I've already had this conversation twice today. And this is with a business owner that's nothing to do with your industry or one that's similar to your industry. It's true there, it's true there. And what that does, of course, is that every day I get an extra layer of certainty on top of knowing, like, my belief of the principles and what works, what doesn't work is just so deep at this stage. It's unwavering because I've just seen it so many times. Right? So I think that's what stands out ProAdvisor Coach, and what for us is really about is coming in to ProAdvisor Coach and being the coach that you want to be, but having a system and having a community and having lots of resources to use in order to expand more. I think of it like a aircraft hangar, if you will, right? And an aircraft hangar is big, has a lot of capacity, has a lot of leverage. You can see it from far away. We are able to have economies of scale. We're able to use the share of resources. And if your individual airplane or your individual business come and park it in there, it's still yours. You're still in charge of it. You get to define where it flies and what it does and how you build it, but you can leverage the scale ProAdvisor Coach. And that's really what ProAdvisor Coach is.
Yeah. And I go back to, as you're talking about analogy of like a sports coach or tennis, you look at the fundamentals, right? Like the fundamentals are true throughout. Your game style could be different from player to player, but the fundamentals of, footwork and leverage and attacking the ball off the bounce, like all those things are true, throughout. And so to your point, you can work in different industries, different companies, different individuals, and the fundamentals, the principles, those remain the same, tried and true. It's just how you apply them and where it manifests through. That's where obviously the fun of customization comes in. But go ahead and dive into where you like to start. I know you've got a mind scan assessment that's proprietary, but talk about where you like to start when you're sitting down with an individual, a small business, a corporation, and kind of laying out, where you need to go. Where do you start?
I love the sports analogy when we come back to that, because some interesting things I like to think about when it comes to that. Where do I start, people? Is really, I think that I'm a fan of making things simple. Simplicity is just wisdom distilled. And I think as the further we go and the more experience that we get, the easier it is to think about the complexities of things. And I just find that fascinating to think about. We're trying to make it simple, right? Because complexity is the enemy of execution. I call the way that we work the process overall the AAA approach, 3 A's. Starts with the first A is awareness. So awareness, action, achievement. Simple as that. This is a cycle. It's a sequential cycle, but also a dynamic cycle. Starts with awareness. Really, hey, business owner, why are you here? What do you need? Tell me about your business. What's important to you? So many simple, rudimentary style questions that most people aren't really asking. And at least if they are, they're going, oh, I've done that before. I've already done that work. I know what it is. But in order to actually get the value from it, I have to define it. I have to see it written down, and then I can leverage it. That's the place I'm always going to start. Essentially, the question is, what do you want? What do you want, business owner? Or what do you want the entity that you're a proxy for to do and create? Why are you doing that? Why is it important for you? And again, these are rudimentary questions, but it's getting clarity around the specifics of those to really define what the outcomes want to get to. And as we do that, we just kind of uncover things and get a bit deeper on it. I'm also going to think about, okay, what are the principles that I hear that pop up? What are the real coaching opportunities of those pop up? As I'm listening to a business owner talk to me about what I might call above the waterline, meaning the part of the iceberg that we see, it's not that's not the part above the waterline that sunk the Titanic. It was the bit underneath, the 80% of that big iceberg that sunk the Titanic. Those poor people didn't see coming. But where people mostly start is what you can see, because we live in a physical world, and that's totally fine. And we work on what do you want to get to? What's some revenue numbers? What's some customer acquisition? Where do you really want to go? Where are the people? And all of that type of stuff. And as we're into that awareness part, Jeremy, what starts to come out is what is really holding people back. What are they saying that's not supporting where they want to go? Where are you complicit in having the things you say you don't want? And really understanding what those things are. And that starts to come out. And before we started recording here, we talked about, look, we've got to set out some principles of how this works. We should be clear about what it is, but actually content-wise, no idea what's going to come out. And it's the same way there, where we create the environment and the trust and the faith that if we put that situation together, what comes out is essentially magic, which sounds like a big thing, but really we're just saying, look, when you're with someone and 1-on-1 equals 3, and that's why it's so important to have the right people in your life, not just in your business, but that people connection. I think now all that comes back to community, which I know is important for you and the impact that you have, which is really awesome. That's the same thing there. 1-on-1 equals 3 if we're really working on asking the deep questions and getting clear about those.
Absolutely. And let's go back, because I'll kind of tee this up in a sports mindset, because I know you said you wanted to come back to this, but talk about mindset, because I think, going back to the tennis analogy, there's a big difference between the player that hangs his head and is down versus the one that's up and confident, even though they might not be playing well. And so the ability to come in and always want to improve. And as you mentioned, even at the early stage of the interview, you talked about, some might go through the day and they kind of crash through, and others are more processed and smooth and they get to the end. And so mindset plays a very important role in terms of the energy, the process, and ultimately the achievement, as you're talking about. So talk about mindset in your world and where you like to kind of go with it to get things on the right track.
It's such a deep topic, and it's one that if you get it, you get it. And I think there's layers of it as well. Having said that, because you can't really put your arms around it. It's like, what is mindset? It's about who you are. It's about how you think. It's about what you believe. But it's just like, I can't point to it. I can't put my arms around it. But an easy way to think about it is just essentially your attitude. Nothing has any meaning except the meaning we give it. So something that popped up in our day today is like, oh no, like it went terrible. That didn't like that. What now? My whole day's going to be spoiled. It's like, well, if that's what you say, then that will be true for you. What you focus on is what you get. So essentially, the most important part of anything is how you look at something, and that is really the mindset. Simple, simple, simple. Again, keep it really simple. The mindset is just, how are you looking at something? If you believe that life happens for you, then it's very different than if you believe that life is going against you. If you believe that something is the end of a relationship, end of a business, it's very different in terms of what you do, based on if you think, oh, it's just the beginning, it's new. And this happens a micro and a macro. And as a business owner, look, we know that businesses, the biggest thing that holds business back is the owner, the person in charge, the mindset and the capability of the owner. It's like, well, okay, let's remove the owner. Well, that won't work either. But we've got to make sure that person can see around themselves. They're not in a critical path. And it doesn't matter how skilled you are and how experienced you are, you can't see yourself, and I cannot see itself, right? And so that's the point that we come from when it comes to mindset. It's like, you'll find that you'll second guess yourself. Is that really true? Am I just saying it's true because I think it's true right now? What actually is true, or what am I just overlaying with what is? And that's why you need the right support level around you. So mindset is the simplest of, how am I looking at things? Am I looking at something that supports me, or is it pulling me down? Am I saying that it's someone else's fault, or am I saying, okay, that's the situation, what do I want to do about it? And it happens overall when you're looking at your business or your life. That happens day in, day out. And to your point around the playing sports, like, you could be there on the court going, oh man, that shot was bad. That means my next shot's going to be bad. That means I'm going to lose the game. It means I'm going to lose the match. Or it could be, oh, that shot was bad. What do I want to do next? And it's just those little tiny choices that make the biggest difference overall in our lives. And let me tie back to the sports analogy. Thanks for coming back to that. The difference I would like to share between sports coaching and business, or any other part of your life coaching, is that in sports, these are two things. In sports, the rules are defined up front. We know what it takes in that particular sport to win that game, win that match, win the league, win the year, whatever it is. It's predefined. Everyone knows what it is. That's number one. That's not true in business or in life. Number two is there's a scoreboard that everyone can see all the time. in business, in life, that scoreboard, we have to create ourselves based on the rules, and we have to be able to actually see it. It can't be in a drawer somewhere that we look at every couple of months when things go bad. And so being able to do those things is really important. So So you nailed it, right, Jeremy? It's like the attitude, the mindset around what I want to do in any given situation gives you the agility to go anywhere. Knowing what the rules are of the game that you're playing in your particular business at any given point is important, and seeing where you are in terms of the score. Those three things together, you can create wherever you want.
Yeah, and I love that you added that on there, because you're right. Like there, when you talk about the rules are defined and everybody can see the scoreboard, and that's not true in life and business. So I'm glad you added that on in terms of, the clarification there. That's a very good point. Touch on one more thing that, as you mentioned, obviously you got involved in working with people at an early age. And when you look at now being a master coach, what's something that you wish you knew then that you know now? So when you talk about working with younger leaders and, those that are obviously on this growth trajectory, just like everyone is really, what's something that you want to share as a bit of advice that you've personally learned, going through this, that has made you a better coach, a better master coach, a more effective master coach?
Yeah, thank you for that. Because I'm really driven to helping leaders, specifically emerging leaders, and where my kind of speaking practice focus has been lately, because I think about back to my banking days, and the place where what tends to happen is that as you be effective in a role that is a technical role or a single person role, you get rewarded, like it happened to me with that team I mentioned. Like my first team came because I was good at the technical role. Oh, you're good at the technical role. Have 4 people to look after, as the terminology was in England, or supervise. And suddenly you've gone from this technical role to a people role, or both together at some stages, and that's really challenging as well. And you go, okay, cool, that was great. Now I'll use what made me successful in my focus as a technical person to make me focused in the people side of it. So I'll manage the people like I managed this process. You cannot manage people. You can only lead people, at least in the long term. People will not do what you tell them to do. People don't like being told what to do. They won't do it unless, and like it's even worse if there's a hierarchy where they're supposed to do it, because they'll do it for a little bit of time, but they'll be out there as soon as they possibly can. So the difference is really understanding that when it comes to people, it's about leading. When it comes to processes, yes, you can manage processes. And that's the distinction I'd like to share here. That's why I'm passionate about that specific area, because it's very underserved. Because if you think about your business, think about you in a corporate world or a small business, or whoever it is, the people that are doing some of the roles that you are not or have done before are the people that are most likely to come through and are actually best placed to succeed you, so you can go on and have better impact everywhere. And then not necessarily supported going through that place, because what can happen is if they come in and they try and manage people like they will manage the processes, that they're going to actually do worse than their technical output. They're going to alienate the people. It's going to have impact on your clients and ultimately the bottom line. And so really understanding leadership is how we do that for people, and it's a different skill than manage a process. That is what I would like to share, and certainly the thing that I really think about when it comes to what would be most useful if I'm looking back at a version of myself, let's say 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago.
Well, this is one of those conversations we could go on and on forever, but let's go ahead and wrap up with contact information so that people can carry the conversation forward. Where do we go to get in touch with you and to learn more about ProAdvisorCoach?
Thank you very much. I'm definitely active on LinkedIn and Instagram. And so you can go and find me at Coach Nicholas Davies on LinkedIn and Coach Nick Davies on Instagram. I also have my email set up in a way which can cope with input. So I'm happy to share that out at nick@proadvisorcoach.com. I have my team taking those stuff. So if there's lots that come over, then I'll be able to cope with that. I'll get back, I promise. nick@proadvisorcoach.com.
ProAdvisorCoach.com. Well, Nick, thank you for all you do. Greatly appreciated. A wealth of information indeed. Thank you for coming on the show.
Pleasure, Jeremy. Thank you so much.